Hello, this is Professor Brandon, and I'm back to talk about the mind-body relationship. And this time we're going to look at the four different views of the mind-body relationship. And these four views are generated by looking at the four statements from the earlier slide presentation. And so first we want to go to those four statements again. And if you remember from last time, what we said about each statement was that it seemed to be true. The problem is that not all four of these statements can be true at the same time. And that means that as a set of statements, they are inconsistent. So they can't all be true. And that raises the question, well, how many can be true at once? It turns out that three can be true at once. And that raises another question, which three? Now, many of us are going to want to say, well, 1, 2, and 3 are true and 4 is false. And that's one possibility. But it turns out that any three could be true at the same time. Now, how many sets of three are there? Well, there's 4 sets of three. And that's how we generate these four different views of the mind-body relationship. And now we're going to look at the first set. And we're going to start with the idea that 1, 2, and 3 are true and 4 is false. And what does that mean? That means that bodies are material things, minds are immaterial things, minds and bodies interact, and that means 4 is false, right? Because 4 says that material and immaterial things do not interact. And that can't be true if a material body is interacting with an immaterial mind. And so this view of the world is called dualism, sometimes substance dualism. This was Descartes' view. Descartes was trying to say, and if we read all the meditations, we would see this more clearly, was trying to say that we have a body, a physical body, a material body, that actually interacts with an immaterial mind or soul. And so this is dualism. Now, what is dualism saying? It's saying that the body and mind are completely different, two different things, but they interact. And intuitively, this is a very powerful idea because it seems that our body is physical and our mind is immaterial, and that they do interact, right? I'm moving my hands around, my mind is doing that. All right. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to see a problem with this view of the mind-body relationship. And the problem has to do with this interaction. If the body and the mind are so different, then how do they interact? What do they have in common? Where, so to speak, does the interaction take place? If they're so different and they have nothing in common, it would seem that they couldn't interact. And again, this is a problem for any ghost movie, right? If the ghost can walk through walls, then how does it affect material things? It would seem that it couldn't. And that's the problem, or a serious problem with this kind of dualism. How do these two different things interact? Another way to think about this problem is to think about the location of the mind. Where is the mind? Is it in the body? Where in the body? How does it interact with that part of the body? And so on. And so again, that's the interaction problem. And it's a serious problem. So that's dualism. That's when statements 1, 2, and 3 are true and 4 is false. Well, let's go to another set of statements. This is where 1, 2, and 4 are true and 3 is false. What is this saying? It's saying that your body is material, your mind is immaterial, but they don't interact because material and immaterial things do not interact. This view is called parallelism. If you think about it, instead of that interaction between the body and the mind, right, you now have kind of the body working on a parallel track and the mind on another parallel track, and these parallel tracks don't meet. And so it's a kind of dualism in that there's two different kinds of things, mind and bodies, but it's not Descartes' dualism, it's parallelism. Now, why would someone come up with this view? It seems like a strange view. Well, one of the things about it is that it gets around that interaction problem. It kind of gets rid of the interaction problem because it's saying the mind and body are on parallel tracks, they don't interact. And that might seem kind of strange. Imagine you're walking along and you step on a tack or a nail, right? It goes into your foot. Normally you're going to say the nail, right, the physical thing, is now causing pain in not just your foot, but your mind, right? It's affecting, right? It's interacting now. There's interaction between the body and the mind. Well, what does parallelism say about that? Parallelism says you're walking along and that's bodily stuff, and one bodily state leads to the next bodily state. And then you have pain in your mind, and that's mental stuff. And one mental state leads to the next mental state. The nail in your foot isn't actually causing the pain, they're just happening at the same time on parallel tracks. That's what parallelism is saying. Parallelism is saying there's two tracks, they're going in the same direction. You have bodily events leading to bodily events, mental events leading to mental events. And here's the strange part. They seem to be in harmony, right? There seems to be a correlation between the bodily events and the mental events, but it's just a correlation. There's no cause and effect relationship because they're on separate parallel tracks. And this, of course, leads to the problem with parallelism. Why is there a correlation? Why is there this harmony between the mind and the body? Because there seems like quite a bit of harmony. Where does that come from if it's not due to cause and effect relationships? So we got rid of the interaction problem, but now we have a huge harmony problem. And some of the philosophers that have kind of pushed this parallelism idea have dealt with the harmony problem well, one in particular named Baruch Spinoza. And he deals with this problem by saying, well, what's really going on is that the mind and body are really just two aspects of nature or God, right? God or nature is the same thing for him. And you're really just part of this bigger system that has these two aspects. And so they're in harmony because they're just part of this larger system, if you will. And it's just the way nature or God is, or made things, if you will. And so what's really happening here is your body's just kind of flowing along naturally. It's a deterministic system. And your mind is the same. It's also a deterministic system. And they're really just two aspects of the same reality. Now, that might not be a very satisfying answer for some of you. And so the harmony problem is definitely a problem here. If we're on parallel tracks, why is there that harmony? Why is the world that way? So we might still have that question. All right, so we've dealt with two of the three sets of statements. And both of these were versions of dualism, right? One was the kind of classical dualism, mind and body are separate but interact. And the other was parallelism, but that's also a kind of dualism. The next two we're going to look at, each is a kind of monism. There's only one kind of thing, all right? And let's go to the first one of those, materialism. Materialism says that statements 1, 3, and 4 are true. So your body is material, but your mind is not immaterial. That means your mind is what? It's ultimately material. That's why this is called materialism, right? The mind and body do interact, but material and immaterial things do not interact. So what is your mind? It's material in some sense. And so, there's different scopes for this kind of materialism. There's a kind of materialism that says, look, the mind is material. And there's another kind of materialism that says, look, everything is material. We're not going to worry about that broader scope. We're going to look at that narrow scope view that just says the body's physical and the mind is too, right? All right, and if you think about it, what does that mean? So what is the mind on such a view? Well, an obvious thing to say is that the brain is the mind, or the mind is the brain. That the mind and the brain are the same thing, right? And this is called identity theory. Why is it called identity theory? Because it's establishing an identity relationship between the mind and the brain. And that relationship is like saying that Clark Kent is Superman. To say that Clark Kent is Superman is to say what? That they are identical. They're the same person. To say that the mind is the brain on this view is to say that they are identical. They are the same thing. And we can see this if we think about mental states and brain states. They are the same thing too, right? So think about pain in big toe, and we'll say that's brain state 97. What does that mean on this view? That means that pain in big toe, right, that feeling, if you will, and brain state 97 are the same thing. Think about it this way. That means that there's going to be pain in big toe if and only if something is in brain state 97. That means if you feel pain in big toe, you must be in brain state 97. And if we did a brain scan and found out you were in brain state 97, we would say what? That you have pain in big toe, because they are the same thing. And here we can see why identity theory is sometimes called reductive materialism, right? You might take a term like feels pain in big toe and reduce that to brain state 97. And so we're kind of reducing kind of feelings or even psychological terms down to brain terms, neuroscience, right? Reducing psychology to neuroscience, perhaps. That's one way to think about it. That's what it means to say that the mind is the brain. That is the identity theory or reductive materialism. And now we're going to look at a problem for the identity theory. And the problem is that it is an identity theory, right? So it's saying that if you're in pain in big toe, right, you must be in brain state 97. And then you want to think about that. Think about other organisms that have big toes. A chimpanzee, it has a big toe. Can it feel pain in big toe? Sure. Could its pain in big toe feel like your pain in big toe? Seems like it could. So imagine that. I'm feeling pain in big toe. A chimpanzee is feeling pain in big toe. And we'll say they're the same feeling, the same experience, if you will. Well, that means I'm in brain state 97. But if the identity theory is true, then brain state 97 is the same as pain in big toe that I'm feeling. And my pain in big toe is the same as a chimpanzee pain in big toe. That means the chimpanzee must be in brain state 97. But chimpanzees have different brains than humans. It's not in brain state 97. It's in a chimpanzee brain state. It's different than ours. And we can do the same thing if we talk about aliens. Aliens come. They land. They come off the flying saucer. One of them stubs its big toe. It's hopping around, pain in big toe. But these aliens are 8 feet tall and they're green. They got antennae. They're not like us at all. Their brains are totally different. Could that alien have the same experience as us? Same pain in big toe? Sure. Does that mean it's in brain state 97? No. This is a counterexample to identity theory. It looks like two organisms could have the same mental state, but different brain states. And according to identity theory, right, that shouldn't happen. And so there's a big problem with the identity theory. All right, so that was the problem with identity theory. And let's go to, that was materialism. That was one form of monism, right? Everything is physical. Let's go to the last set of statements here. Statements 2, 3, and 4 are true. 1 is false. Bodies are not material things. If bodies are not material things, then what are they? They must be immaterial. What does that mean? It means that everything is minds and ideas. You have a mind. The mind has ideas. Your body is just an idea in your mind. It's just a perception in your mind. All the bodies you see are just perceptions in your mind. This view is called idealism. Everything is minds and ideas. And of course, it's a kind of monism, right? And it's somewhat attractive because you don't have to worry about that mind-body interaction, right? The mind and body are interacting because the body is just an idea in the mind. That's all that's happening. It's kind of like what Descartes was talking about with the dreams. Maybe it's just all a dream. Your body's not really there in the sense of being physical. It's really there in the sense of being just part of your mind. All right, let's go now to the problem, or a problem with idealism, another harmony problem. Idealism works best when you just think about one mind at a time. So you're thinking the world, the external world, but it's not really there. It's all just in your mind. It's just like a dream. But why then, right, can we reach agreement, right, when we see different objects? So if I hold up this pencil, right, and you look at it, what color is the pencil? It's green, right? I think it's green too. According to materialism, we would say, well, we both agree it's green because the light is bouncing off of the pen, right? And we're seeing the same thing. But according to idealism, the pencil's not physical, It's just an idea in your mind. And that raises a question. Why do you have an idea of a green pencil and I have an idea of a green pencil? Why are our minds in harmony? Why aren't we just thinking different worlds? Something must be making us in harmony. And here's where some philosophers, the philosopher Leibniz would say, well, God likes harmony, so God made a world with harmony in it. That's why there's harmony. But again, that just raises more questions. And so that's the problem with idealism, or a problem with idealism, a harmony problem. And now we've looked at the 4 different views of the mind-body relationship that come out of those 4 statements. And we could throw in the 5th view of epiphenomenalism. There was a reading on that, so take a look at that as well. And now we have some different views of the mind-body relationship, and that will help us with the material going forward.